What's up, guys? It's your boy Alex. Today's guide episode is gonna concern hazards in Black and White Draft, meaning rocks, spikes, and toxic spikes. And a disclaimer ahead: this guide will not go over rapid spinners in a large scale, and they will all get their own video because there is so much to talk about. Concerning like Starmie, Excadrill, Tentacruel, whatever. And this will entirely focus on the hazards themselves and the users. I will be mentioning rapid spinners in like parts of this guide, but they won't get like large explanations on why they are so good or bad. Okay. Overview. There are three kinds of hazards: stealth rock spikes and toxic spikes. Sticky webs don't exist in this format, and they are meant to force progress into opposing teams via punishing switches. And in this generation, the only way to remove them is via use the rapid spin. Defog got modified in generation 6, and things like mortal spin don't exist yet. And something to be reminded of is that heavy duty boots aren't an item in this format, so hazards are a constant unless you have like magic guard or you are a flyer, so that's you're immune to spikes, and you can prevent them going up via the use of taunt, because you just disrupt the move being clicked. Magic bounce, the hazards don't come into your field and they bounce back to the opposing side. And magic coat, which is magic bounce but a move, and it's very niche. Yep, stealth rocks. They are the most common and the easiest hazard to use. They only take one turn to get their full benefit out of, which is a massive reason why they are so common. And common access to the move doesn't mean a ton of Pokemon want to click this move. Many of the move's high tier users prefer not running it, and I will go into them later. And many mons that get this move struggle into the best rapid spin mons, something I will also go into later. And best users of this move are Pokemon that can commonly afford it in their 4 move slots and are able to keep them up via good offensive pressure or a defensive profile. Yep. And good high points users, obviously Landorus Firin. It commonly runs the move in its main 4 because it doesn't need like knockoff. It doesn't need defog in this generation. Only thing it really needs is U-turn and earthquake. So outside of that, it can bring like toxic, hidden power ice, raw stone edge, a setup move, whatever. So it is quite easy to fit Stealth Rock into this moveset, and it's very good at keeping them up because it has a 145 base attack stat, and thus its stab earthquake hits like a bitch. No spinner wants to come into that unless they're like air balloon. So it's one of the best stealth rockers in the format. Metagross doesn't really have 4 MMSs. It wants to run like Meteor Mash at times. It wants to run Earthquake at times. It wants to run Ice Punch, Bullet Punch. But it doesn't adamantly need anything to do its job. So a Stealth Rocks is a common move on it, and it is one of the better ones at keeping them up, because it's so bulky and it has a massive attack stack of 135, and it just outright can beat Starmie with Lumberry if you can just pursue trap it. And Cobalion, it has some 4M's. Especially if it goes like Sword Stance, then it obviously won't be able to click Stealth Rocks. But if it's going to like play the defensive / utility set, it only really needs Volt Switch on that set, so it's quite good at using Stealth Rocks. And then I have put Uxie and Mesprit. They have good defensive profiles. They both have U-turn, and they have extremely good move pulls. I don't remember exactly if Mesprit has it, but Uxie at least has Encore, which can just fuck over many of the rapid spin users if it's using like Rocky Helmet, for example, and it just locks the spinner into rapid spin. So you can just keep clicking the move, and they are gonna die slowly but surely. Then more budget-friendly options include like Aerodactyl, and Aerodactyl is a mainstay on Hyper Offense for good reason, because it has the fastest taunt, and it has Stealth Rocks, and it has a good offensive profile, so it can like just Stone Edge the opposing lead, or it can taunt them and get rocks up and then die. And it does extremely good damage to every single spinner. Maybe the only problem is like Donphan and Claydol to an extent, but even those can be like played around. Then Steelix, it has a very good defensive profile with a massive defense stat. I think it was 180, and it commonly wants to run the move because it doesn't really have anything better to click anyways, so might as well click the broken move. And it is able to come in on like Dragonite, for example, pretty easily if it's running Dragon Dance, and then just threaten it out and get rocks up back. And then Golurk is extremely cheap at 6 points, and it can be very threatening offensively. It's a spin blocker itself, and it's also a ground type, so it has a good typing. It's obviously not the best because it's kind of slow, but it's 6 points, so what can you expect? And then not so good rocks users, Tyranitar, Celebi, Gliscor, and I put them together because they have massive 4-move slot syndrome, and they aren't able to run this move commonly. Celebi especially would look like an amazing Stealth Rock user, but then it wants to run U-turn, it wants to run Recover, and then it potentially would like an offensive type move like Leaf Storm, Giga Drain, Hidden Power, yeah. So it doesn't really have, it can't really afford the slots. It could, but it has so many other good moves to run, and it kind of needs to recover to stay healthy over a game. Then Infernape, it is just far better at being an offensive mon than clicking Stealth Rocks. It always gonna feel like a momentum sink. When you have to click rocks on this mon, it could, in theory, be really good at it because it has like taunt and encore in its move pool, so it is very good at disrupting. But you already have insane move slot syndrome because you need hidden power a lot of times. If you're special, then you really would like Fire Blast, U-turn, and then a fighting move. Or if you're physical, you like U-turn again, then you like Flare Blitz, Close Combat. Then maybe you could argue the slot, but there are better moves to have, like Thunder Punch, for example, or Earthquake. And then for Fortress, it has a ton of these traits. It like has Volt Switch, it has Spikes, it has Rapid Spin, So then adding just Stealth Rocks into that mess is not very good a ton of times, and it isn't that reliable at keeping its own hazards up because it's so slow and it doesn't really do anything when the opposing spinners spin on it. Maybe Rocky Helmet, but even that doesn't work too, like the water spinners, which just scald it and then it dies. Yep. Then I have spikes after, and they're rarer than rocks with a lower floor but a higher ceiling in terms of damage output, and this is due to the fact that more things are immune to them, and it always deals the flat 12%, unlike Stealth Rocks, which can change their damage based on the resistances of the opposing side. So they can deal like 50% to a Volcarona, for example, but these will only deal 12 or 12 to 24. So you can get 3 layers up. One layer deals 12%, 2 deals 18%, and the third deals 24. And 2 layers is kind of a bait. If you can avoid it, do so, because the damage growth isn't as good going from 12% to 18%. So if you want to like the full damage, you should always try for the third one, because then the benefit is doubling the damage. Unlike with 2 layers, it's just 50%. It's hard to explain, but I would heavily suggest watching BKC's video on the topic, because he made a good argument for this. And no, there are no bad users of the mood, can bump up Pokemon's value by a ton, and the key component in a hazard stack in Black and White, and this style doesn't exist without this move. Like, there is no hazard stack unless you have the second hazard. And Spikes users, Fairthorn, probably the most notorious Spikes users in Black and White. It has an insanely good defensive profile with being in water resist and electric resist and the dragon resist, and it just beats Stormy extremely well. It can 1v1 Tentacruel and Blastoise if you are using like Raspberry or Lumberry, because then you don't even get Scald burned. So it's just a very good mon, and it's a very good stealth rocker too, but I put it under the Spikes users because that's what it's most known for. Same goes for Skarmory. It is very good at clicking stealth rocks too, but it's ground immune Pokemon with recovery in Roost, and it just hard counters Excadrill, and it is able to beat most ground types, which are the most common stealth rock users. So it can come in, get entry, and get more hazards on them pretty easily. And it checks dragons because 140 base defense stat, and Roost just make it very, very bulky. It kind of struggles into the water type spinners because it doesn't like being burned at all, since it does need its sturdy ability to get the full out of it, but it's still very good mon. And then Roserade, it's probably one of the better offensive spikers in the format, due to the fact that it just has insanely good disruption with powder moves, and it also has toxic spikes, which we'll go more into later. It just has a great move pool, and it has a relatively fine speed tier, and it is surprisingly bulky for being a ninja, with a good special defense stat, I think of 105, if I'm not remembering wrong. And it isn't that good though being defensive because it is very frail on the physical side. So if possible, it should be able to use to like pressure teams along with its offensive profile, plus then using this spikes move. Yep. And then budget-friendly options include Life Rolls Last, which is a spin blocker itself. It is very fast. It's a Terrakion outspeed, and it has Will-O-Wisp and Destiny Bond, which are massive benefits to it. It isn't as reliable as keeping the hazards up because it's an ice type, unfortunately, which makes it a Stealth Rock's weak mon, and it gives it a ton of weaknesses. So it kind of has shown itself to get one layer and then be happy about it, and then potentially die and take something with it with Destiny Bond, but that is a-okay for a Pokemon of its profile. Then we have Axelgor, which is the fastest spikes user in the format, and it is able to grab momentum for its team by using spikes and U-turn in combination, and it is very threatening as a cleaner. But it doesn't. Then again, it's Rock's weak mon because it's a bug type. So just have to be aware of that fact. And then Ferocity does what its big bro does, and it does it fairly well for a cheap price. And it's a good secondary steal option in case you need more hazards. You need the spikes on a bulkier core. It is very good at it for its pricing. Then you have to obviously remember that you're item locked due to needing a Violite. So just don't expect a ton out of it, but it's good at spiking. I will give it. Then lastly, we have Toxic Spikes, which is the rarest hazard, but it should always be accounted for because dealing a default 12% per turn is a lot of damage when you think about it, since this is the hazard that does its damage over multiple turns. And one layer causes a standard poison, 12% flat damage, and 2 layers cause toxic poison. Damage ramps up, starts up from 6%, and it is commonly better to just get 1 layer, since it is in 3 turns, it deals 36% damage, and 2 layers of Toxic Spikes after 3 turns deals the same damage. So you kind of get just a similar output for just 1 turn, and that you are very good with due to the fact that this format is so fast paced. So you don't really have a chance, or you would prefer just taking a short time clicking a hazarding move. Yep. And then good Toxic Spikes users include Tentacruel, which is already one of the best Pokemon in the format, so obviously it's gonna be good at it. It has a very good defensive profile, with being a poison type and having a good speed here, and obviously having the water typing is amazing in this format because water resists in the rain format are really good. Then you have the Nido Twins, which are able to slot it, fun enough, in this format because you don't need Sludge Wave to hit fairies, and you only really need Earth Power, and then you can pack coverage plus Toxic Spikes pretty easily. And they're just very good offensive mons in their own right. Maybe not the best mons in the format, since you generally look for a different kind of round, but they're still very good Pokemon. And then we have Scolipede, which is the fastest Toxic Spikes user. It is able to threaten out spinners with good damage output with strong stabs, and it is best commonly used as a lead in a team because you can just focus chase it, and then you click spikes and Toxic Spikes, and then you die, and then you're happy. Then you have Drapion, which is Dark type, which means it's immune to psychic type attacks, which is a very good trait, and it just fucks over Starmie pretty hard due to having Pursuit. Then you have Quellfish, which also has the both hazards, and it has a good defensive profile due to Intimidate and Typing. And then we have Garbodor, which is very cheap. I think it's at 7 points right now. And it has both Spikes and Toxic Spike, and it can do funnies with Explosion as an example, or it has Haze to stop set up sweepers to an extent. It isn't like anything special, but it's cheap and very good for its price. And lastly, why hazards are so important and strong is that dealing absolute damage is so important. Like, for example, a Chansey is a very hard mon to deal with for like a Thundurus, but then you have these hazards which deal 12% to it, and it's super awesome that you have, because it makes a ton of ranges. For example, it just makes them better. And Stealth Rocks are vital in stopping many of the best setup sweepers like Dragonite, Volcarona, Salamence, because they take 24% from them instead of the standard 12 due to being Rocks weak. And they block the use of Focus Sash on non-immune mons, which is extremely good and sturdy in a similar way. The most major sturdy users are Skarmory and Fortress, so they are just get their abilities shut down, which otherwise could be problematic. And probably the most important part that I didn't type a lot about was Volturn. It's just punishing the switching due to them just switching around a ton during the game is so good. It is so good, and it just makes the Scizor, for example, die so much faster. And yeah. Yep. And then lastly, I want to thank you for watching this guide. And the rankings of these hazarding mons are coming in January when Black and White 2 starts on Smogon. And in case you have further questions, just ping me on Discord, and I will gladly tell my expertise. So, see you around in the next episode. Goodbye.